I know that earlier you said how you meditate because you have to. You meditate essentially like you recognize that that's really important for you to do. And I think that it can be a little intimidating at first for some parents, and just any people to start meditating. And I know when I started, I went for a pretty long period of time that I thought, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. Something's wrong. I'm not doing it right. Um, so like, do you think anyone can meditate? Is that really something that everyone can do?
Yes, I do think that anybody can. um, and even if you're like fidgety and even if your mind goes crazy and all of those things, yeah, I definitely do think that now. I probably didn't think that at a different point in my life. But yeah, like you, I had a whole, when I first started meditating, I had like after like 2 or 3 months, I was like, "This is stupid. I just sit here thinking the whole time. I'm not doing it right. I can't do this. What's going on?" But I looked back at the rest of my life, like not during the meditation time, but the rest of my life, and I realized like up until that time, I started when I was 27, and up until that time, I had regularly fallen into these pits of, I can't handle life, just the pits of depression, or just like I remember I had a couple panic attacks in the high school parking lot where I taught, and I just felt like I was so highly sensitive that like I don't know, like I just fell into these pits like every week or 2 weeks, like for basically my whole life. And then I started meditating after I did a yoga teacher training, and after 2 or 3 months, I had this like, "Oh, it's not working" crisis. But then I looked back at the rest of my life and I didn't fall into any of those pits that I had fallen into for my entire life. Like literally my whole life as a kid, I remember really having that experience. And and that was a huge, huge game changer for me. Um, yeah, it's like I get that. I do think anybody can do it. And I think it's this like kind of superpower that everyone need, especially parents. But I get that it's really hard to like sit down and like essentially do nothing but follow your breath or whatever. Like it's so hard that there was some study that they did where they put people into a room and for 15 minutes, and their choice was there was nothing in the room except they could just sit there and do nothing. I don't think they encouraged them to meditate. This is my caveat. But anyway, they could just sit in the room, do nothing, or they could give themselves mild electric shock. And
Hmm.
like something like 85% of people gave themselves mild electric
Oh
shock.
my.
Yeah, I mean, don't quote me on the exact numbers on that, but it was pretty surprising. So there's a big aversion, and I think that it's because for survival, our human species had to be moving forward, predicting what's next, looking out for threats, right? Like that's our momentum is forward moving very much. And so it's kind of like this weird brain hack, I think, too, that 2600 years ago they sat down and stopped moving forward and realized like, oh, I can actually have greater well-being, less anxiety, all of those things when I actually stop doing and settle my breathing, or just sit here and I practice not reacting to all the different commands my brain is giving me, or whatever it is, right? Or doubts that are arising. When we just sit through those things, we develop this ability to tolerate any number of things, including perhaps a crazy tantrum from our child.
Yes. Yeah, that we're all experiencing that too, right?
Yeah. So how long have you been meditating now, Lynn?
I did. I was learning meditation and mindfulness before I became a member, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what drew me to what you were offering, because I felt really strongly that it was something important and that everyone should do and that had a lot of benefit.
Mhm.
And I think that since really from taking mindful parenting and following the course, and it helped me make it more of a regular practice, because there was so much urgency, because I felt like now I'm doing this not just for me, but for my family, for my children. And, that puts another level to it, that it really gave me that extra motivation. So, I've been meditating for a while, and I feel like I, yay.
Yay!
But I also have this tendency to get very stressed out, and have high anxiety. So for me, it is a necessity,
Mhm.
and mindful parenting really does help me, keep it together in many different areas, because I know that I need to be doing this.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Like I notice the days when I don't meditate. I mean, especially during like the beginning of the pandemic, I guess. Like
Hmm.
it used to be I would take a lazy day every week. But since the pandemic started, I've noticed that if I take a lazy day, then I just am like a little bit of a wackadoodle that day, and I definitely feel more anxiety then. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing the studies that show it reduces depression, reduces anxiety. They show that it's as effective as medication, which is like pretty amazing. But it makes a lot of sense. And the thing that I think that's really just helpful for us to remember is that going back to that, like, where I was so frustrated that with the, parenting of advice of just say this, just pause and say this, um, what the brain scans have shown are really interesting. And so the fight, flight, or freeze centers of the brain are the amygdala. They're like these 2 little almond-shaped clusters in the base of your neck, and they're the basic like the alarm bells of the nervous system. And then there's our prefrontal cortex, which is behind our forehead. And that's that area, like the brain, I have to say, is a very interconnected thing, right? Like it's not like this simple, but just to simplify it, like that area of the brain is like where they indicate like higher order thinking, problem solving, verbal ability, empathy, all of those things like that will help you if you want to respond differently. And when our stress response is going, it literally like cuts off access to that prefrontal cortex because it's that alarm bell is ringing. What the MRI brain scans of mindfulness practice, about an 8-week course of mindfulness practice, show is that it actually shrinks in gray matter, the amygdala, those alarm bells. It actually makes shrinks the connective tissue between the amygdala and the rest of the brain, and it actually grows more dense in gray matter, the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex area. So it's like
Wow.
literally changing the shape of your brain, which is so fascinating, isn't it? Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.